Hello and welcome to our lecture on the key characteristics of the U.S. economic system. This lecture is from Chapter 3, Section 5 of our Economics Alive textbook. In Section 3 of Chapter 3, we stated that the United States has a free market economy. A more accurate description would be that the United States has a free enterprise system. And what that means is this. We say mostly because there are some exceptions. There are 7 basic characteristics of the U.S. free enterprise system, and we will look at these today. The first one is economic freedom. And what that means is this. For American consumers, that means that we can buy what we want from whom we want. As American workers, it means that we are free to look for a new job or even start our own business. And for American companies, that means that they can make what they want, hire whomever they want, and set their own wages and prices, with some limitations on those. Because our government doesn't get very involved in our economy, we say that it is a laissez-faire economy, which means that there is very little government intervention into the economy. There are limits, however. We have a great deal of economic freedom, but there are limits. For example, you're not allowed to sell drugs, as these people are about to find out. You're not allowed to sell alcohol to teenagers. There are restrictions on child labor. So there are some limits to our economic freedom. Now, a moment ago, we said that economic freedom means you can act within your own best interest. But perhaps what we should say is that you must remain within the law. Let's move on to the second principle. Competition. Competition is a result of the fact that anyone can enter into a market. If you wanted to start a cereal company tomorrow, you can. You'd have to have your product approved by the FDA before it goes on the shelf, but you can enter into any market you want, and that is what creates competition. The effect on firms, the effect on companies, is that it gives them an incentive to improve their product and keep their product high quality, and to be more efficient and keep their costs low. Raisin Bran knows that if they raise their price too high, we'll just buy some other cereal. Cheerios knows that if they go cheap and they start to use bad ingredients, we'll find out and we'll start to buy another cereal. Competition leads to both of those things, improved quality and lower prices. The effect on us as consumers is that we have a wealth of choices. There is an entire aisle of cereal at your grocery store. And the same can be said for a lot of products in our economy. You have a great deal of choice. In addition, the prices are much, much lower than they would be if there was only one option. If there was only one option for cereal, that company could charge whatever it wanted, and we would have to pay it if we wanted cereal. But since there is a variety, that competition keeps prices low for us consumers. Our third economic principle is equal opportunity. Economists have interpreted this part of the Declaration of Independence to mean that Americans are born with equal rights, equal freedoms, and equal opportunity to make the best of our talents and abilities. However, at points in our history, there have been legal barriers to some members of our society. There have been legal barriers to women, and legal barriers to African Americans, and legal barriers to other minorities, preventing them from, say, entering higher education or from entering certain fields of employment. But for the most part, many, if not all, of these legal barriers have been taken down, have been removed. There still exists economic barriers preventing some people from having an equal opportunity. And we can discuss and debate these in class. Let's move on to our fourth principle. Binding contracts. A contract is an agreement between a buyer and a seller. And in the American free enterprise system, anyone who is of age can enter into any contract. Now you have to fulfill your end of the contract, which is why we have a legal system to enforce contracts. If you've signed a contract saying that you're going to pay or saying that you're going to provide, they can take the other person in that contract can take you to court and make you fulfill your end of the contract. If you are financially unable to fulfill your end, we have bankruptcy, and people and businesses can file for bankruptcy if they are unable to fulfill their contracts. And the court system will work out a plan for how those issues will be resolved. The fifth aspect of the U.S. free enterprise economy is property rights. And property rights are the rights of those who own land, the rights of those who own buildings, or the rights of those who own goods that allow them to use their items or dispose of their property however they see fit. So if you own land, you can do what you want with it. If you own a building, you can pretty much do what you want with it. If you own an item or a good, you can do what you want with it. And you can get rid of those things. You can dispose of those things however you want. The Constitution guarantees all Americans access to court if they feel that their property rights have been infringed upon. If somebody has damaged your property or somebody has stolen your property, you are guaranteed access to court to help you with those matters. Furthermore, local government, state government, or even the federal government may need to take your property. Most commonly, they may need to take your land to, say, extend Sawmill Road. If the government has to take your land for the public good, like building a road, they can do that. However, the Constitution guarantees that you will be fairly compensated for that. So if the government takes your land to build a road for everyone to use, they can take your land, but you are going to be paid for that land. That doesn't necessarily you'll think it's fair, but you will be compensated. The government does not just protect physical property, the government also protects intellectual property. And the government does this through honoring patents and copyrights. Patents are guarantees to inventors that no one is allowed to copy off of their invention and profit off of their invention for a set amount of years. If you go invent something, you can get a patent which says that no one is allowed to copy your invention. A copyright is very similar. It is for a literary or artistic piece of work. So if you write a book, or you write a song, or you make a painting, and you get it copyrighted, that means that no one can copy your painting, no one can copy your book, no one can copy your song without paying you, without you making a profit. Copyrights and patents encourage Americans to be creative and write new stories and new songs and new pieces of art because they can make a profit. And patents encourage Americans to be innovative and create new things and think outside the box because if their invention is successful, they can make a profit. No one would invent anything, and a lot fewer people would produce music and writings and art if they knew that it could be easily copied and their chance to make a profit was gone. So the government protects intellectual property as well as physical property. The profit motive is our sixth principle of the free enterprise system. And we just saw a little bit of the profit motive when we were talking about intellectual property. What is the profit motive? Well, first we should define profit. Profit is the money earned by a business after they subtract its costs for operation. So after a business pays all its workers, and after it's paid its bills for all the materials that it's used, and it's paid its rent, and it's paid all of its expenses, any money that's left over is profit. And that profit is kept by the business owners. The desire to make a profit is known as profit motive. And the profit motive is why people start businesses. People don't start businesses because they think it'll be easy. They don't start businesses because they think it'll be fun necessarily. They start businesses because long term, down the road, they would like to make a profit. And they think they can make a profit. This gets back to our economic principle from chapter 1, that incentives matter. The profit motive is the incentive to start a business. Our final principle is limited government. In the United States, the government does not get very involved in our economy. If you compare the US government with the government in Canada or Great Britain or Germany or France or many other Western nations, in the US there is very little government intervention. Our government does not control firms. Our government does not compete with firms. The few things our government does are as follows. Our government protects property rights and contracts. We've mentioned that. Our government promotes the general welfare. So they fund projects and programs that benefit society as a whole. If a new freeway would benefit society, the government will pay for and build a new freeway. If a national park would benefit the public, the government is going to fund and run a national park. The government preserves competition through antitrust legislation and breaking up monopolies to make sure that competition is fair, because competition is essential to our economy. The government works to protect consumers through things like the FDA, which makes sure our food is safe. It works to protect workers' safety and security by inspecting workplaces to make sure that safety is taken seriously at factories and workplaces. And the government works to protect the environment through agencies like the EPA, which makes sure that firms are not polluting more than they're allowed to. And finally, our government works to stabilize the economy and promote a gradual, steady growth of our economy. We'll talk more about how the government stabilizes the economy during the second 9 weeks. This concludes our lecture on the 7 principles of the U.S. free enterprise system. Again, this information can be found in Chapter 3, Section 3 of our Economics Alive textbook. Please refer there if you have any further questions.